For the
WPAT Patterson, and worldwide from New York City at www.wpat930am.com. WPAT.
The following program is presented by its producer, host, and sponsors.
With God's assistance, we begin. On October 8th, 2011, it's 5 a.m., and you are tuned to a new day for Al-Islam in America Radio, the talk show forum that discusses current events and other issues in the human experience. We are broadcasting from the metropolis of New York City, and you can catch us right now on the World Wide Web at WPAT930am.com. where the sound comes through as crisp and clear as a glass of cool spring water. So, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, call your family, call your friends, and call your neighbors and tell them to get ready for an hour of stimulating conversation with your host, Imam Yusuf Ramadan. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, and welcome to a new day for Al-Islam in America Radio with your host, Imam Yusuf Ramadan. We have a special show for you today. This is a show that will discuss the Occupy Wall Street event that's happening in New York City. We have in the studio with us Michael Riley of the Occupy Wall Street Community Relations Working Group, and he will be with us in a moment, right after these words. Bismillah. The Clara Muhammad School of Queens says, your education, your spiritual life, your goals, and your future are not four separate things. They are simply different aspects of a whole person. That's why the Clara Muhammad School combines three ingredients essential for effective education: serious academics, a supportive community, and a strong tradition of successful graduates. So, join us as we offer our students Quranic-based curriculum, solid core curriculum, achieving high grades in every subject, achieving national honors, speaking a second language, early graduation for those who qualify, performing arts, computer technology proficiency, science lab, an intensive college prep program that earns college credits, field trips, and also a low tuition. So, the Clara Muhammad School is now open for registration for grades K through 12. With caring and experienced teachers who are willing to help each child reach his or her full potential. The Clara Muhammad School at 105-01 Northern Boulevard in Corona, Queens, New York. For an appointment, call 646-645-9531. That's 646-645-9531. The Clara Muhammad School. Consider the possibilities. And now we have for you our host, Imam Yusuf Ramadan. Assalamu alaikum and good morning, Brother Imam.
Assalamu alaikum, and Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. There's the God's name, the merciful benefactor, the merciful redeemer. We'd like to welcome everybody to New Day for Al-Islam in America. And this is a program that seeks to have discussions and insights into current events and other topics and subjects that are of interest to all of us, and look at it from the Muslim perspective, which the media tends to ignore, or to tell us what it is that we believe or how we think or how we should think, which they have a tendency to do, what they call the mainstream media, with all constituencies. They tell us how we should think, and the general public. And I think we have I heard you mention that we have our special guest with us today, Michael Riley, in the studio. We'd like to welcome him. And we know that you were on the ground there at Occupy Wall Street. And so I'd like for you to
Thank you very much for having me and having my voice heard. This is an excellent opportunity to speak to some people that maybe we haven't reached before. Real quickly, like you said, I joined the Occupy Wall Street movement on day 3, and I guess that's about 17, 18 days ago now. And
Wow.
I was won over immediately by the democratic process and the inclusion of all these young, beautiful people with these ideas about change and involving people that weren't even like themselves, or just very open and a real beautiful thing. So thanks for having me. It's really my honor.
Yes. Yes.
You're
Go
doing
ahead,
good.
brother. Yeah. I just would like to say that I had a very beautiful experience being down at Occupy Wall Street this afternoon, or this morning early afternoon. What I saw seemed to be so natural, that in that environment there was so much going on. It was just not a lot of people just sitting around chilling out, or these were people that were there. They were working. I saw they had a medical setup. They had a media center. They had a long platform with a bunch of food on it.
Mm-hmm.
There was even a place that if you wanted to recharge your cell phone, they had a spot there where you could recharge your cell phone too. That was beautiful. But also what I saw that was interesting was the messages that was on, just bits of cardboard and written on the ground. They made sense. It wasn't something that was computer generated. It was something that that it came from someone, and it just felt organic and natural, and especially being in that park environment.
Well, that's one impression that we've been getting and we've been hearing from those who've been there on the ground, is the wonderful spirit that's there. And I would like to ask Brother Michael. He's been there. This is of course, an exercise in sacrifice and courage, great courage. What motivated you to come out and to make this sacrifice and to put your body on the line and subject yourself to the possibility of arrest and brutality, and to be away from your family and your normal life routine? What motivated you and inspired you to make this sacrifice?
Well, like I said a few moments ago, the beauty and the spirit of the people. I was alerted to the occupation happening through the internet a couple of weeks prior to it, on September 17th, the first Saturday they gathered, and I kind of ignored it for a couple of days, thinking it was going to be a typical demonstration where people just gathered and then dispersed. And on late Monday, on the third day, I was exiting the subway station right near here in Lower Manhattan, and decided to find it and check it out and see what was happening. And it was just this new thing that I hadn't seen before. It was like, as the word has been mentioned before here with our brothers, organic and fresh and beautiful and all these things. Within moments, I was inspired to find out more about it and help this group make the world better place to live in.
Yes, and we've been seeing the inspiration
Yes.
from the work that you young people have done down at Occupy Wall Street, that has spread to other cities. In fact, I'm hearing that there's some events going on in some 200 cities in America, and this is wonderful news to see. As I was saying earlier, the media, they like to tell us what's happening. They like to tell us what's going on and what we think.
Mm-hmm.
We've been told, I'm a little older than you, and I can remember the demonstrations and the rallies and the marches that took place back during the 60s and the 70s and the anti-war movement. And, we've been assured by the media that young people today, they're not interested in that. They're only interested in partying or, they've been telling us that the people who are occupying Wall Street are just, they use the same terminology they did for us back then, that they were just hippies. We just interested in smoking marijuana and, all these other things to try to really denigrate the wonderful work that's being done, the spirit and the, I would say, different consciousness, political consciousness. That spirit of brotherhood is really very inspiring to myself. But let me ask you, what, they want to know, of course the media wants to know, or what do you want? What do you want? What is it that they want? There's no, they've been trying to denigrate the movement by saying, who's the leadership? And, what are their goals? We've been hearing that exactly because they're not able to identify leadership, because we know that their tactics are always divide and conquer, and to identify leadership and then marginalize that leadership, or either co-opt that leadership, like they did, particularly with the so-called Tea Party. Now that they were people that had some legitimate grievances about the government, and then they wound up co-opting that movement and then turning it into something that only talks about being overtaxed. Part of what I see is that we believe that the rich, we should tax the rich, they should pay their fair share, but equally as important, if not more important, is what's done with those tax dollars, how they're put to use after the rich begin to pay a fair share of taxes and add to the revenue. We don't want those taxes to go towards continuing military misadventures or the building and selling of weapon systems around the world. Give me a little insight into what you see as the accomplishments or how this movement would be considered to have been successful.
Well, that was an excellent question, because you asked the question of what is going to make this movement successful, and then you addressed several of the issues that, to me, kind of define the movement, and that is that there's really no one single cohesive point that's been spelled out yet, and it involves a lot of these things in society, whether it's misspending or poor government or social inequality or economic inequality. And as far as I can say, and I really can't speak for the group because it's a leaderless group of a direct democracy, so I can't speak for any one individual, but this is being developed. They're working on this. They've put on their websites various possible outcomes of this, and it has yet to be decided on, and that's another one of the fascinating aspects. We talked about it earlier tonight. It's no box. It's this uncontained thing that is organic and growing and developing. And I mean, your question was so beautiful because you said, what is the goal? And then you spelled out, like I said, 7 or 8 or 9 things that are very crucial to the whole world and are clearly wrong in our society right now, whether it's social inequality or class warfare or, wars and famine and all these terrible things. So does that answer your question, that there really isn't a defining, goal right now, but they're working on it?
Well, I read I read what's being called a declaration of occupation of New York City. Were you a part of that? Are you aware of some of those?
I am. I
okay.
am.
That's you have to be so careful, when you see information coming out, and because we know that the media is one of the many tools that they use to manipulate everyone's thinking. But one of the points that I see here is that it says they have taken our houses through an illegal foreclosure process, despite not having the original mortgage. And this is one of the big things that really gets to me with these big banks. I saw this so-called presidential candidate, Herman Cain, come out the other day and make some ridiculous statements that, as if the crowds in Wall Street and throughout the country and throughout the world, really, that if you want to be rich, don't blame the big banks. You know, it's not the bank's fault that you don't have a job. I'm saying to myself, really, that's kind of hard to understand. But then I came to find out that he was actually on the board of directors, or the chairman of the board of directors of the of one of the Federal Reserve banks.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm beginning to understand where he's coming from. But you know, this is a major point that so many Americans are losing their homes through this illegal foreclosure process. And I mean, it's so bad that one of the attorneys general for the state of California actually dropped out of the class action lawsuit against the banks because, you know, now the government is seeking to enter into an agreement with them that, you know, amounts to really a slap on the wrist and giving them a fine, which it might sound like a lot to average people, a $20 billion fine, but the banks have made so much money and they're going to pay that fine collectively. It's like a parking ticket to you and I. So I'm very happy that the movement targeted Wall Street, because really, as I heard someone say, that's where the action is. What made you go to Wall Street as opposed to, I don't know, Washington, D.C. or some other area?
That's a great question. It's kind of funny you mentioned that. I actually grew up right outside of Washington, D.C., in Fairfax, Virginia, and protested many a cause, whether it was for civil rights, women's rights, the right for free speech, or opposing some bill or some nomination that we thought was unfair. We would march on Washington, and as I was saying earlier tonight, these marches would happen for a day or so with 100,000 people and then just disperse. This one here, it just had a different model. It had a different feeling to it, a different formula. I'm not sure why the different groups came together on Wall Street, actually. That was something that happened through the Internet, Twitter and Facebook and those types of things in the weeks prior to September 17th when the word just got out. And it just seemed to resonate with me. Like, that's really where the problems kind of originated. With obviously there's Washington, D.C. has the political power, but it just seems that we're a money-based society now. And all these things, like you were saying, working class families that struggle and do everything correctly and still lose their homes, just didn't seem right. And just felt like Wall Street was the target.
Well, I totally agree, and we're thankful. We're so thankful that people are waking up. I heard it expressed by someone else earlier today that why target the monkey in Washington when you can go right after the organ grinder?
Yes, and
wow.
In Wall Street.
What we want to do right now is we're like 20 minutes in, and we want to give the listeners an opportunity to share in the program. Maybe they have some questions that they would like answered regarding the Occupy Wall Street. Maybe there are some other people from Occupy Wall Street who would like to call in and voice their opinion or give some kind of reasoning. Our telephone number is 212-219-9695. That's 212-219-9695, or you could call 9620 or 9629 or 9634. That's 212-219-9620, 9629 or 9634. Brother Imam?
Yes, well, we want to definitely urge the members of the Muslim community to join our brothers and sisters there at Occupied Wall Street. And we know that our station, we broadcast to all of the 5 boroughs in New York and also northern New Jersey and probably some areas of southern Connecticut. But we know that also we have listeners on the web. So we urge you to look and see where, if you're not in the New York City metropolitan area, as I said earlier, there's reports that this movement has been inspired to begin in some 200 cities. You know that there, and I've talked to friends who told me of demonstrations down in Baltimore, in Boston, in Los Angeles, and so wherever you are, you should give your support. Let them know. Let them know that the Muslim community is awake and we're conscious as well. And, we have an obligation to help to make our country, our society, and really in the world, because really this is a worldwide movement. We're seeing the same type of reaction over whether it's in Athens, Greece, or in Spain, and throughout the world, in Cairo, in Tunisia. I've heard this movement here in America being referred to as the American Autumn, and comparing it to the Arab Spring. People are really having an organic uprising of their spirit to really demand justice, or as we say, freedom, justice, and equality in all areas of life, not just the political sphere, but also, and I've heard people saying that the protesters in Occupy Wall Street, that they're looking for social justice. Well, that's true, but they're using that term to deny the reality of the petition for economic justice. That's what they don't want to talk about, economic justice. And that is what they have been using to really, I would say, oppress the people all over the world, not just in America, because this banking system is an international system. It's not only here in America. It's the same people that are monopolizing the resources, not only in America, but throughout the whole world. So call in if you have a question or you have a comment that you'd like to make. You can please ask you to call in, and we'll give you an opportunity to talk to our guests.
Yes, Brother Levi has a question.
All right, listen, two things that I would like to point out. I was talking with Brother Michael earlier, and I was relating to him that I had heard one of the spokespeople from Occupy Wall Street talk about that Occupy Wall Street as it exists right now, that they are projecting it as a platform where community-based groups, and they made a real strong invitation for community-based groups to come down and to express their concerns. Could you elaborate on that a little bit, Brother Michael?
Yeah, I would love to. Thank you. That is another one of the aspects of the whole Occupy Wall Street movement that got me involved, is that it's welcoming to people from all walks of life. It's very open and inclusive, and we're working with the local residents of the neighborhood, the various labor unions, the people who are in and around this area, and trying to encourage everyone throughout the country and throughout the world to work with, again, community-based groups such as block to block, neighbor to neighbor, just all-inclusive, regardless of race, religion, gender, stereotypes, socioeconomic strata. I mean, there are people who work and live on Wall Street who actually make fairly good incomes compared to most of the country, and yet they're still struggling because they live in a neighborhood that costs a ridiculous amount of money to live in, and even though they're working for some of these companies that they are seemingly targeted, but they're not really, they're struggling too, and their pensions might be drained from them because of bad investments by the pension managers. So if that answers your question, it's a really deep thing in this country, in this society, and the world.
Well, in terms of community involvement, it came to my attention that Monday, the so-called Columbus Day holiday, Dr. Sharpton and the National Action Network plan to spend quite a few hours at Occupy Wall Street.
You mean Reverend Al Sharpton?
Yes,
okay.
The Reverend Dr. Al Sharpton and National Action Network. However, I would like to know, to your knowledge, Brother Michael, has there been any other real grassroots involvement in terms of the Latino or the African American community?
That's an excellent question. Again, yes, there has been several. Mr. Cordell West came down.
Cornel West, Dr. Cornel West?
Correct,
Yes.
Doctor. joined the group there about 10 days ago or so, and Governor Patterson, of course,
Yes.
came down and expressed his, support, and also made some incredibly beautiful comments about how it was, as we say again, an organic, organized operation that came out of like no preconceived structure. But getting back to your point about the minority groups and yes, there has been an underrepresentation of the African American and Latin American and Asian American communities, and all of these. I'm a white male by birth. I'm going to be honest, brothers. That's who I am, and
we can see that, bro.
I was actually trying to I was going to try and call you back and see if I could find a non-male, non-white to come down here and share something. But anyway, my point is I understand that that part of society needs to be represented, and believe me, the Occupy Wall Street community is more than welcome to anyone. It just I see what you're saying, that there's not a large number of that segment of the population being represented right now in Occupy Wall Street. And
well,
I'm not sure why that is, actually.
Well, I'll tell you. Mike, I think one of the issues that kind of triggered the whole Occupy Wall Street and actually gave it a platform was the interaction that the demonstrators had with the police. African Americans don't have a good interactions with the police.
I agree on that.
And I think that that's kind of what stopped it to a great degree. That I don't think it would have been the same if it was African Americans. I just don't see that.
I agree. I've seen that happen so many times. We all know of those landmark events that have happened throughout history. I don't want to bring them up. They're horrible, but you're absolutely right. There is a mistreatment of the African American and minority community in this country by the police. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, we have a call from Sister Jamila. Assalamu alaikum. You're on the air with Mike Riley and Imam Yusuf Ramadan. Go.
Good morning. Assalamu alaikum. Peace. I want to say, make a comment. I know some people that were down there representing, or maybe not just down there for themselves, but representing. Was Russell Simmons from the hip-hop community. He was down there, or he said he's like a billionaire, and his employees have to pay more taxes than him. Michael Moore was down there, the film editor, producer, and former Black Panther, that brother who went for mayor under the ticket of Freedom Rights Party. I can't think of the name.
You're talking about Councilman Barron, Charles Barron.
Councilman Barron. Yeah, he was down there representing the black view and the black vote. And if I didn't have to work so many hours every day, I'd be down there myself. And I'm so proud of those young kids doing something, because it's really an outrage. 25 years have passed since I've had my first apartment, and I remember it was a studio, $100 a month, everything included. Now you can't find it nowhere on the planet here in New York, and it's a shame. Well, usually when something gets older, a house, it gets less value. Or maybe, you know what I'm trying to say, the analogy I'm trying to make, but it's ridiculous, these prices these kids got to pay when they get be independent on their own. $1,000 a month for a studio apartment? That's ludicrous.
Well,
and it's all about corporate greed. And also, the CEO of Starbucks is in Harlem on Monday, and I did some research in Harlem and Starbucks. They get their money, their coffee for pennies from Africa, and then sell it over here for $2 a dang on cup. And I told him to his face, you can't take all that money when you pass on. What you gonna do with all that money? It's corporate greed, and it's really got out of hand. Money is not to buy happiness or health or anything like that. And people don't realize that they want to amass all this money, and they cannot take it with them.
Thank you, Sister Jamila, as always.
Assalamu alaikum.
Brother Michael, there's another there's another question that Sister Jamila's comments have led into, and that is that I've noticed that there are people who and some of the occupants that are in the park, they are actually sleeping there, making them sleeping quarters. How long is this going to go on, Occupy Wall Street? And is it comfortable or what?
Well, again, excellent question. And Sister Jamila was her name. Had many great points about banking and the way it's affecting the families and the people of the U.S. and the world. But answering your question, on I think any given night, by my estimation, there's between 200 to 350 people sleeping there. Some nights it's been as low as 150 or so. There's been some rainy nights in the last 2 weeks. It's clear and dry right now. It's cool. The feeling among the people who are there is that they're going to be there, for the long run, and that means into the winter. And some people are saying we're there forever, until something changes. And obviously the weather's going to change. It's going to get colder, and there's going to be snow potentially and things like that, whatever. But that's the feeling. It seems to be a shared feeling. So we will see.
Well, let me ask this question.
Mm-hmm.
I was watching, and let me just say this in terms of the inspiration spreading. I was in a restaurant up in Harlem yesterday and watching on Thursday night, and we were watching the television, and there was a middle-aged African-American woman there watching also, and she said to me, "I'm going down there and I'm going to camp out. Mm-hmm. I'm going down there with those kids. I'm going down there and camp out with them." And I said, "Really?" She said, "Yes. I'm really inspired to go down there and spend some time with them because I'm looking at the situation." She said, "I lost my job myself, and some of my young nieces and nephews, graduating from college and going to school, and they just can't find a job, So I also saw that State Senator Bill Perkins was down there as well, and we know him. He's a friend to the show. Has been on the show with us as well. So I think it is. I think it's only going to build, and it's going to get. And the point that Kareem made about the interaction of the African American community and the police department is true. We've had guests on the show, and we've discussed the stop and frisk procedures of the NYPD, where over 500,000, now it's up to 600,000 African American and Latino men have been stopped and frisked in the city of New York. So I think that contributes to the strained relationship between the police department and the African American community. But hopefully we will get over that and realize that joining this movement will contribute to the greater good.
I hope so. That's a great point again, and I sense that amongst this community. Again, one of the reasons why I kind of fell into it and embraced it. It's made me look at the world in a different way. That I really think that this movement represents real social, economic, political, spiritual change on this planet. I really feel it. I believe in it more so than anything like this ever.
So, well, I agree with you. Let me just ask you a question that may seem a little silly, Brother Michael, but, I was watching Bill Maher, and one of the guests on the show said something to the effect of, well, they don't have any bathroom facilities. And I'm saying, I haven't been down there yet. I plan on going down, and I have some brothers that are going to join me to come down there. But with all of the organization that we hear that's taking place there, I find it hard to believe that there's no facilities for using the bathroom.
Well, that's an interesting question. I really can't speak for everybody there. It's an interesting leaderless democratic group, and I know that there's a number of people that have opened up their apartments throughout the 5 boroughs and surrounding areas, New Jersey and even southern Connecticut. Folks in Westchester and Long Island have invited people to come out and shower and change and refresh and take care of themselves. And there's a network for that, which I can't speak of because I don't really get involved in that aspect of the occupation. But apparently it's been relatively taken care of. It's an interesting thing. I'm not again, I'm not able to speak for everybody, but it seems that there's been no problem. I would like to see an actual camp where we have facilities, but I don't know where you could do that in Lower Manhattan or even the 5 boroughs.
That's true. That's true. Let me ask you something from the political aspect. I've heard our illustrious mayor, Bloomberg, saying that at some point, they plan on dispersing the crowd because he's saying that obviously we can't stay there forever. We can't allow them to be there forever. There's going to have to be some end to it. I mean, how is that being taken into account that those forces are what they call the powers that be? Of course, we know they're looking for a way to end this occupation.
Yeah. These are good questions, by the way. I've spoken to a number of media outlets in the last couple of weeks, and sometimes they don't ask that question as succinctly as you just asked. And yes, that's being discussed and tossed around amongst people that I speak with, but I don't think, again, because it's a leaderless democratic organization, I don't think there is an end game that's been plotted out at this point. So I'm kind of curious if and when that happens, how the city and Mayor Bloomberg and his police are going to go and do that. I think it would be shocking to most of America and the world if they just came in and eradicated several hundred people who are being extremely peaceful, and as I keep using the word beautiful. So I guess we're kind of waiting and seeing. I've heard it tossed around, but there's no real answer to that question.
If I may, Brother Man, I'm thinking in the context that you just asked that question, and I want to ask Brother Michael, does the presence of the labor unions, the municipal unions, and some of the non-municipal unions, does that seem to make a difference in terms of the force or the mass?
If I can address that real quickly.
Go ahead,
I've been, again, as I said, I've been demonstrating my entire life. My mother was a union member for the CWA down in Virginia and Washington, D.C. when she was for her whole career. And so addressing that specifically, on Wednesday with that massive labor rally that just really came into the Occupy Wall Street community and not only asked them to support them, but then in turn equally supported Occupy Wall Street. Several unions, and even in the following days since then, union members have been like integrating themselves with the several hundred to a couple of thousand people that are there every day. I think it's huge because the labor unions have not always embraced these kind of larger movements of change and sort of semi-political, but that's the beauty of this, is there's no real political party behind it.
That makes sense.
Yeah, well, I'm certainly, as a veteran of demonstrations, I've been involved in the anti-war demonstrations of Vietnam. I was a college student at that time and being directly affected. At that time, we had a draft, and it was, in fact, one of my best friends was imprisoned for refusing to go to the war. At that time, he was the youngest. Matter of fact, he was the youngest person in the United States that was actually in prison for that. He was 18 years old at the time. And I've been involved in the anti-apartheid demonstrations, et cetera, in New York, in Washington, D.C., and others. So, it's really inspiring for those, for my generation, and Brother Levi that's there in the studio, Brother Kareem, to see young people today that they're not, as I said, the media has a tendency to tell us, not to ask us, but to tell us that, young people today, they're apathetic. All they want to do is make money. All they want to do is party and hang out. And we know that might have been true and for some, but it's never been true for all. And so we're very, very happy and very encouraged to see the younger generation picking up the mantle of struggle for freedom and justice and equality.
Brother Imam, one of the ideas that the media has finally put out is the movement as far as Occupy Wall Street. Their movements as far as marches is concerned. I know that they had a march across the Brooklyn Bridge, and that was disruptive, and they had some clash with the police. But there have been others. There have been other marches from Wall Street to other destinations. Can you say something about that? And are there other plans where people might be able to participate?
Sure. As I guess many people may be or may not be aware of, the first march that really received any sort of media coverage was the one on Saturday. I guess it was the 23rd, 24th. Pardon me if I have my dates incorrect. I'm kind of losing track of those things, being down there so much. But it was the Saturday march that went to Union Square, where the young women were pepper sprayed by the police, and a number of other people were arrested. Maybe they said, I think, approximately 80 to 100. And then that inspired a lot of people to join, and they grew. And that was a march that was planned to go to Union Square, and the police, in my opinion, disrupted it, and it ordered the marchers to disperse, and that's when they were corralled and pepper sprayed, arrested, cuffed, detained, and put in the vans and hauled off to various places. And then since then, there was the large march that my brother here was describing on last Saturday, a week after the first disruptive march, as they call disruptive, and that was the one that was led under the Brooklyn Bridge, where about 700 people were arrested. And there's some conflicting reports as to whether or not the police led them on the bridge, or they were told not to get on the roadway and they disrupted traffic. And you can read all about it. We've all heard about it. And since then, there have been marches where members of the Occupy Wall Street have joined the postal workers, or the CWA, the Verizon workers were marching on Verizon. The labor unions marched 10,000, 20,000 strong on Wednesday in Foley Square, and the Occupy Wall Street people added to that. So there's a number of things going on. There's a gathering tomorrow in Washington Square Park that's outside of the Occupy Wall Street, location downtown, and it's a whole different thing. It's spreading to another part of New York, maybe. Does that answer that?
Yes.
Excellent. And I'm glad you brought up that point. That kind of goes to the heart of the question of the minority participation. When everyone was horrified by the scene of this gold shield officer, white shirt officer, spraying this young white girl who wasn't doing anything to threaten him or anybody else. And, that's what we're talking about, freedom, justice, and equality. How come we haven't heard about him being disciplined? We haven't heard anything. It's as though they're saying that, if the technology wasn't there, and a shout out to Steve Jobs, if the technology wasn't there with these smartphones to be able to videotape this, the police department, the NYPD, was denying it, and then they said that the use of the pepper spray was judicious and was restrained and justified, and clearly the whole world sees that it was not. So, the reality is these things happen all the time. Some of the incidents that you mentioned, and the police department just, they get a pass on that. They're able to get away with it. And so I think that adds to some of the cynicism, particularly from the African-American community, that have been the target of those types of attacks, and much worse throughout the history of New York City and really throughout the whole country.
I feel that very deeply. You're absolutely right. And I can say it again, the way you said it. It was a young white woman who was sprayed by a white police officer, and it received an inordinate amount of attention worldwide through YouTube and the mainstream media and the actual publications, whereas we all know that there have been so many incidents where people of color were, treated extremely horribly by the police and hardly reported. It's those few incidents that, like Rodney King beating, that was on video, that was recorded, that becomes a sensation. So, again, that's another amazing point that you bring up, and I don't really have an explanation for it.
Well, I think that there's not an explanation is really not needed. The point is that it got the attention that was needed to address this circumstance.
That does happen to an ordinary citizen who's really doing nothing,
That's right.
regardless of skin color or even situation, whether it's in New York or in the South or in another part of the world.
Well, it happens all the time. And
I know.
Kareem said, we understand the explanation, and the explanation is simply this: that the police, who are actually blue collar workers and really subject to the same layoffs and all the other inequities.
Their pensions are being cut also.
Within this definition of capitalism that we experience here. But what it proves is that the police department is used as the buffer between the people, or when the people are advocating for change, or those that they see as a threat. Those that the power structure sees as a threat to the status quo. How they will use the police department, and really it's not only against people of color, they will use them against anybody. But the point that I'm trying to make is that the whole world saw this incident take place, and we haven't heard anything about this officer being disciplined for that.
No, I've heard nothing about that either. It was discussed that he was mentioned for a similar incident years ago. During the Republican National Convention. It wasn't his first time, and then that's it. It's gone. Well, the media, they report the facts that the police give them. The facts, I use the word loosely. But if the police tell them that that's the story, that's the end of it, that's all they're going to report until they make an official statement, which might happen in the coming months or years.
Yeah. Well, the reason why the other incidents you mentioned where there were 700 people arrested, that was actually a setup. That was actually a setup to try to counter that image, that they want to try to portray the demonstrators as being violent, unruly, etc. But we're at past the three-quarter mark of the show, and we want to say to you that if you enjoy listening to the show, New Day for Al-Islam in America, that we urge you to keep us on the air. You don't hear this type of dialogue with grassroots people on many other shows, and we ask you to keep us on the air by sending your contributions to Masjid Nuruddin at 105-01 Northern Boulevard, Corona, New York, 11368. That's Masjid Nuruddin, 105-01 Northern Boulevard, Corona, New York, 11368. So we're coming up the almost a 10-minute mark, so we urge you, if you have a question for Brother Michael or a comment, to call in before it gets too late. Don't wait till the end of the show like everybody, and start calling in. We want to give you an opportunity to ask your question and make the comment. Right?
Yeah.
Yes. So I was urging the listeners to call in if they had any other questions or comments of Brother Michael. And as I said, we really are inspired. I'm personally very inspired and encouraged by the outpouring of the will to sacrifice, to be out there, because as we know, as he said, and we've been thinking about these things, that the weather is going to become more inclement, it's going to be less friendly. We thank Almighty God for blessing us to have had relatively good weather. I mean, it's not as warm as it has been, but it's not really brutally cold yet either. And it's not a lot. We've been getting a lot of rain in the last 3 weeks. We haven't had as much rain as we have had prior to that. So we know that, not a leaf falls from a tree except by the permission of God. Mm-hmm. And we know that He's with us. We know that we're doing the right thing, and that we eventually will be successful. The movement, the spirit is growing, and trust me, they have a tendency to pretend that this is not having an effect on them. But believe you me, the so-called powers that be, those that the economic elite class, they are very, very concerned, and they are watching this very closely. I would just ask Brother Michael if he has any closing comments or statements that he would like to make as we come near the end of the show.
Well, first of all, Imam Ramadan, I want to thank you so much for having me on. This has been a really beautiful discussion that has opened up some, important questions and made me think about what Occupy Wall Street is, which, again, I say is this beautiful, organic, ongoing, developing community that is a movement that's spread into, are we sure if it's 220 or 250 cities? The count is growing and changing, and we're reading reports of different movements, even in other parts of the country. So I just really think it's a beautiful change in the attitude of a lot of people that are coming together from all walks of life, and I just hope that I know that we will keep this moving, because this is really how people feel. You can break down the political barriers and all that kind of stuff and just get along like human beings, which is how we're meant to be. And
that's right.
I know one thing: it's redefined what Tea Party is.
Absolutely, the Tea Party is a small movement of like-minded individuals that somehow has a powerful effect on the Republican Party and the media and that sort of thing. Whereas I believe this is a large movement of like-minded individuals who, at this point, are only having a small effect, but I'm confident will have a huge effect in the days, weeks, and years to come on how we think about the world and how we live together.
And it seems that this here is really more connected internationally, as opposed to just the American circumstance. It's
true.
International.
There's some people who've been with the Occupy Wall Street movement since day one from several countries, and we've received lots of support from around the world, from literally every continent on the planet. And as, of course, New York is represented with residents from every country in the world live in one of the 5 boroughs, and they have communities here. And we've just, again, received so much thank yous and support and words of encouragement from all walks of life, and it's just an all-inclusive, open thing, and that's one of the many beautiful things about it. Thanks again for having me.
Well, no, we thank you, Brother Michael, and, may Allah continue to bless you and your family and all of those who are making these sacrifices. But I would just say this: I've been reading about the donations and everything that have been coming in to sustain the movement down there. How can people, if for some reason they can't get down to Occupy Wall Street, how can they help? What can they do to help?
Well, if people wish to contribute something, there is an official post office box it's actually a UPS box. The address is it's Occupy Wall Street at 118 as in Adam, Fulton Street, number 205, New York, 10038. It's right a few blocks away from the site. It's 118A Fulton Street, number 205, New York, 10038. And it's attention Occupy Wall Street, and donations are being accepted, but you can send a note, just a word of support and love. We've received so many of those, and when those come in, we open them up and read them, and it just makes people feel really good about what's going on. And if you can't afford anything, you don't have to give. Come on down and say hello, walk around and see the people, and learn about it, and give us your opinions, share opinions. That's a beautiful thing. So I hope everyone does that in some way or another. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And as you say, may Allah continue to bless you. And we will see you down there, inshallah, God willing, at Occupy Wall Street. And we're coming near the end of the show. So, Brother Kareem.
Yes, we do have some announcements that we want to make. But first, what we want to do is
I need to make this announcement. I was trying to reach out to Brother Levi earlier and let him know of the passing of Brother Menin. Brother Menin, they're having a janazah for Brother Menin at the masjid in Queens on Geranium Avenue today. Brother Abdul Menin passed away, and his janazah, inshallah, will be offered today, Saturday, October 8th, at 10 a.m. at the Muslim Center of New York, 137-50 at Geranium Avenue. For the past 50 years, Brother Menin has been a leading community member who strived for the good of Muslims in particular and humanity in general. He is well known for his publication of the Minaret, the Muslim newspaper, and organizing the Muslim Day Parade to support the Muslim schools, including the Khan Muhammad School, among many others. And we know that he was a good friend of my predecessor, Imam Qasim Bakruddin, and I know Brother Levi remembers him, and Brother Khalid remembers him. He was the publisher of the Minaret newspaper.
Yes, Brother Imam, that definitely clarifies who you're talking about. I wasn't clear about it earlier, so I thank you for that. And inshallah, we'll see you over there.
Yes, and I just responded to it by saying that Brother Manin is indeed a tireless worker for Muslims in America and the world. And he is particularly devoted to Muslim education, including the Khan Muhammad schools. He is a close friend of my predecessor, Imam Qasim Bakruddin, and along with him, a founder of the annual Muslim Day Parade in New York City. Brother Manin is in the forefront of bridging the divide between the indigenous African American community and the American immigrant community here in America. His patience and perseverance, his easy smile and generous spirit will be missed by all. May Allah forgive his sins and grant him the Jannah.
Amen.
We look forward to seeing you there today at 10 a.m.
Yes, sir. That brings us to our first announcement here about the Pioneer.
Now let's go with Kwasi.
All right, Brother Kwasi.
Assalamu alaikum, Brother Kwasi. Yes, sir. You are on now. Thank you for your patience. We appreciate it.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Yes, I just wanted to briefly tell you about the after show today. We're going to talk about and it's going to actually next Saturday. The American Cancer Society is sponsoring its 2011 Making Strides of Newark, New Jersey, a walk against breast cancer. We're going to be speaking with one of our regular participants in the after show, Brother Salim Sharif of Newark. He will share with us his passion and vision in regards to this noble cause.
Okay, we have 1 minute left.
You can call in at 213-816-0356.
One more time.
213-816-0356. And we'll let Salim share with us his commitment to and his methodology, his way of combating breast cancer.
Thank you, brother.
Really
and thank you, and we look forward to being with you. We want to get to a couple of more of these announcements. We wanted to talk about the Pioneers and the United Talim.
October 16th. Let's start with the United Talim. October 16th in Corona, Queens, hosted by Masjid Nuruddin. That'll be Saturday, October the 16th at 1 o'clock. We start at 1 o'clock.
And the next one
is the Pioneer Tribute and Dinner at Masjid Muxi Khalifa, October 22nd, Saturday, October 22nd at 5 p.m. It's all free. Free admission, free dinner.
Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.